Just hold it. Oh my God. You know, Alex runs an amazing channel in German. It's called Electrified. So we'll post the caption or the link to his channel in the description. But Alex, tell us, you know, you saw this in Europe. What is it like to see this, you know, on the road? I mean, you even said that it's kind of becoming normal.
I see it here every day, like once or twice a day in the Bay Area, and it's so impressive. Every time I see it, I turn my head. To me, this is the most impressive car that's on the road right now. In Germany, we don't have it. So the first time I saw it was actually in Austria at the event where we met 2 or 3 weeks ago. And some people look at it and they hate it intuitively. Other people are super intrigued, and I'm in the second camp. I look at it and I think it's super bold. What a beautiful design in a weird way, but it's impressive. It has a massive size, especially for us Germans, because our cars are tiny compared to what you have in the US. And just the sheer presence of this thing, plus the design, the triangle shape, I love it.
Yeah. You know, and the average size of a car in Germany is, you know, the VW Golf, for example, which is kind of like in the US, it's like a Toyota Corolla, right? But, you know, would you ever see something like this, you think?
No. People discuss if it's okay to drive SUVs in Germany because they're so big, right?
Yeah.
SUVs in cities, that's a topic where people argue if it's okay, is it really necessary? Do you have 3 kids? No, you don't have 3 kids. Why do you need a car so big? So this thing in Germany, our cities are also built differently and our parking spaces are differently. This would be a problem. If you took this car to Munich where I live, it would be a problem just to park this.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you were, I mean, obviously, you know, we haven't driven this quite yet, but do you think something like this would come to Europe?
I mean, I hope so, just because I think it's a super interesting car, and me personally, I would like to see it there. Would it be a car that sells a lot in Europe? I don't think so, because it's just too big. I don't know anybody personally who has a pickup truck or a car this size at all, or needs one. So I think it would be very niche, but it would look cool on German streets as well, and I would like to see it there. Will it ever come? Not sure. Will it sell good? I don't think so.
But I guess it's cool to have either way, or just to check out, and so we'll see. I mean, because I know that there's some regulations that would even keep this current version off the roads in Europe, like I think the width of the steel, right? It would not pass, or it'd be too safe almost, right? Because of the pedestrian regulations and stuff, right? So.
From my understanding, in America, it's just important that people in the car are safe, and in Europe, everybody has to be safe. So also pedestrians, people on bikes, and you don't want to get hit with this, I guess. But let's see what Tesla comes up with. But from your perspective in the US, is this also a debatable design, a debatable car, or is it more accepted and normal here?
You know, this is definitely like a very, very polarizing car, I would say. But at the end of the day, like, you know, when people, it's kind of like Tesla. When Tesla first just kind of came out, people, like, I mean, they saw the Tesla Model 3, and it really was polarizing as far as even like the concept of it, but it was the technology that made it attractive. Yeah. And so that's going to be the same case for the Cybertruck. I mean, once you drive it, it really just changes your idea of, like, you know, what automotive vehicles should be.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you think is the target audience here? Is it, for instance, you have the Cybertruck, but before you never driven a truck before?
So I had a Toyota Tacoma. So first off, in the US, the #1 selling car is the the F-150. And so, you know, Americans, they love their trucks. So I had one, actually there's a Toyota Tacoma back there. That's not the version that I had, but it was similar. But, you know, if you just look through this parking lot, I mean, you got a Jeep over here, you got a bunch of SUVs, you know, several trucks, but a ton of SUVs, several trucks back there. So, you know, Americans just, and even another truck back there. It looks like a like a Chevy. So, but let's go for a drive and see, you know, get your perspective on it.
Okay, so you think truck people will get this, and also EV Tesla enthusiasts can buy this too?
Yes, but I think the big thing is that truck enthusiasts, they need to drive it. Just like the Tesla Model 3, Model Y back in the day when they thought this company was going to go bankrupt. Once you get in the car and drive it, it really does change the game of, like, automotive in my opinion.
With the rear wheel steering and steer by wire,
yep,
it probably drives better than any other truck. I've never driven other trucks before, but from your perspective?
Yeah, oh, totally. And especially the biggest thing is, you know, it'll be interesting to get your perspective on, you know, the Teslas that you've driven in Europe, how does it drive even though it's so much bigger? And that's the biggest thing is that, you know, there's trucks, you know, even cars like this and other cars that we've seen, you know, this Ford Ranger over here, you know, that really, it drives that like that, a vehicle of that size, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So this thing is huge. Obviously, it's, you know, smaller than a standard F-150, but that's the reality. Yep. So, all right, let's go for the first drive. And we're gonna make sure you have some time next week with this bad boy.
Oh, I love it.
Cool, so let's get
this.
Do you want the AC on?
Yeah, probably not so much because of the audio.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking for your video.
Yeah, of course.
We have to suffer a little bit here in the heat.
All right, so first off, tell us about what experience of Teslas, for those that aren't familiar with your channel, have you driven?
Yeah, I've been driving Tesla for 8 years now. I bought a Model S in Germany 8 years ago when I was one of the first Tesla drivers, I guess, there. And there were not that many superchargers, but it was just okay, so you could do it and cross the entire country. I was living in Berlin, my family in Munich, so that's about 6-hour drive, and there were some superchargers along the way, so you could do it. It was the only electric car that was able to do these trips. And since then, I sold that car eventually, bought a Model 3, sold that, bought a Model Y, and now I have a Model S Plaid.
Oh, nice, nice. All right.
You can actually drive it in Germany.
Yeah, that was the best experience in being in Germany and on the Germany Autobahn. Ooh. Or that's like, man, I think I'm well. So in the U.S., it was probably about 145 miles per hour, which would be probably what 220, 240 kilometers. But yeah, all right. So give us first impressions. Like, you know, I think you've been in one before, but what comes to mind when you step into the Cybertruck versus like your Plaid and all the other Teslas?
Yeah. I think it's very similar, and it's very clean interior design, nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy when you compare it to other Teslas. There's not much going on. You have a big center screen. The steering wheel looks visually too small, in my opinion, because you have such a big car. Now the steering wheel it's a weird shape and small. So
we call it a squircle.
Squircle?
Because it's a square circle.
Oh, okay, okay, got it. Yeah, this screen is gorgeous. It's huge. I wish that there was a second screen here or the head-up display. I think that's something that they missed, where they cut corners or saved money on the wrong end. Everybody always complains, in Germany at least, that there's a display missing. I've driven the Model Y and Model 3, so I know that you get used to it. It's fine, but it is an advantage when you have a display there. So I think that is something that they should have done. And when you look at the car from the outside, it's a very loud design, very extroverted design. From the inside, it almost looks normal-ish compared to the outside, right?
Yeah.
And you turn around, obviously huge glass roof, that's gorgeous. And I like that you see a lot, that there's a lot of windshield space, there's a lot of glass. So even though this is a huge car, I feel like I kind of know where the car ends, because after the tires, there's not much. So basically, the car kind of ends where the windshield ends. So even though I'm in a big car and I'm not used to driving big cars, I feel comfortable enough because I kind of know where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, enough talking about it. Let's drive it.
Yeah, sure.
And you already know what you're doing because, you know, you have a Plaid, so.
Yeah. And this is also nice. So this is the maximum angle of the steering wheel.
Yeah.
So you don't have to.
And they had a software update recently where they improved the turn radius.
Ah, nice.
So that's the crazy thing also too.
How do you like these blinkers?
It took some time getting used to it, to be honest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think you get used to it, but it never becomes ideal.
So you're in this huge boat, and you're literally. So you're in this boat. You know, how does this compare to your Plaid? Like, as far as not only the turning, like you just did, a right-hand turn, a left turn as well?
It works so well. I like that all you have to do is this. There's no.
Yep.
And you have this. And even though this is by far the biggest car I've ever driven, it turns better than the other Teslas, kind of, because of the rear wheel steering. My brother drives a Fiat 500e, so it's a small car.
Yeah.
And from just turning, it feels like I'm in a Fiat. You know, just a small car.
Yeah. Yeah, and then even, you know, so in your Plaid, right, it's obviously pretty quiet inside. So this has off-road tires, so these are not the stock tires. It's going to be a little bit louder, but what does even the ride quality feel like?
Yeah, from noise level, I've driven the Cybertruck last week. I feel like my Model S Plaid is a little bit less loud. This is not a loud car, but it's also not like, oh my God, this is super quiet.
Yeah.
So I host a German TV show, or I'm the host for the electric segment. And so we test all the cars. And for instance, when you drive a BMW i7 or a Mercedes EQS, like those cars are so quiet, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And the Model S is not on that level, but it's also pretty quiet. And here I feel like the drivetrain, you hear that?
Yeah.
So, but not in a negative way. I kind of like that you feel the power in your ears as well.
Yeah, no, it's I think that's one thing that's unique about the truck, right? Is when you step on the acceleration, you know, versus the other Teslas, it's a lot quieter. This is a little bit louder.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you ever miss it from back in the days when we both probably driven combustion engine cars?
You know, you do a little bit, but honestly, like, you know, it's something you get used to, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, how do you think, you know, so this has the steer-by-wire, the 4-wheel steering. If Tesla were to, you know, funnel these features down to the other cars that they have, like the S, the X, the 3, and the Y, how do you think that would, you know, how do you think Tesla owners or future owners would respond to that? Like, is that a game changer, or like, are the things that you're seeing on the Cybertruck now that big of a difference maker on driving it, or?
I really like the question. Last year we did a segment on a TV show focusing on steer-by-wire, because there was this Lexus where they showed off the technology. And there was a lot of discussion under the viewers if this is safe, and it's kind of weird that there's no mechanic link between the steering wheel and the tires. And now here in the Cybertruck you have it actually, but this car is so different that you focus on all the other things, and this is just like an afterthought kind of that it has steer-by-wire. But you see how it works, and I think especially when you have a yoke steering wheel.
Make a left up here.
Yes.
Right. Or do it at the light. The light's fine.
So now with the yoke steering wheel, when you go in a roundabout or some sharp corners, it does become like a little bit not ideal that you have to turn it so much, but it's empty up here. So when you have a yoke steering wheel and steer-by-wire, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I hope that all the Teslas in the future that have a yoke will get steer-by-wire, because then this is all you have to turn.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. How does this, like, so it sounds like, I think in the US, you know, this is pretty new technology, right? It sounds like Lexus, but it also too could be, you know, we obviously mainly follow Tesla, but, you know, the steer-by-wire in this versus Lexus, like how is it handling? How is it doing? Is it a lot different, you think, or is it similar?
I like it here better. In the Lexus, it was not a production car, so maybe they improve it. I mean, it's all software. You could program the car in a way where I turn the steering wheel to the left, the car goes to the right, right?
Yep.
It's all software. And so when we did a test in the Lexus to simulate like a danger spot, and we have to go like, it kind of, I felt like that there was like a little lag.
Yeah.
And that didn't feel natural and good. It felt like the engineers programmed it in a way where when you do like an immediate thing, that they give you like a split second of maybe you change your mind, so you turn it, and it wasn't perfect there. So here in the Cybertruck, I think it feels very organic. You can just drive it.
It's very reactive too, right? I mean, you were just flipping it right there, and it's just
right there.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to worry about it, that you've never driven a steer-by-wire system before. It just works. Your brain understands what your hands have to do intuitively. I'm not thinking, oh, this is different steer-by-wire. No, I just take the corner. It's easy.
No, and you know, how do you think Europeans would react to this truck? You know, when
very split. I think most people would be weirded out, because like if you take this in a small village where people are not super tech savvy, maybe they've never seen it before, they see this, they're like, didn't I read the news? Are we in war? Like, this is not a normal car.
So hold on, stop real quick.
Yes.
I just want to point out, so if you look at this car over here, so I'm going to zoom in. This is the Ford Raptor. This is technically probably, it's not the F-150, but that is like 100,000 USD. Oh, it's kind of the comparison that people make to the Cybertruck, if that makes sense.
It's also that expensive?
Yes.
100,000 for this?
Yes. Yeah, and more.
You could just drive this.
So yeah, and that is actually wider than this. So that's kind of the, you know, that's kind of the, let's make a right. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of the goalpost that you know the Cybertruck is compared to, is the Ford F-150 Raptor, right? But yeah, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, so here we are, man.
Can I use the windshield wiper once?
Of course. So yeah, just hold it. Oh my God.
Dude, looks like a huge arm just comes from.
It's gonna whack it, man. God. Hit it again, dude.
Dude, this thing. This must be the biggest windshield wiper I've ever used.
Ever. Let's make a left here.
Yep.
But yeah, this is the biggest windshield ever put on a vehicle ever. Man, look at that turn, dude. You're just barely turning it. It's the whole thing is turning.
When this thing gets FSD, then it becomes such a crazy car.
Yeah.
I've tested FSD now the last few days, and I've sent videos to my people in Germany, and they were mind blown. Because we have autopilot, yes, it's nice, it's cool, it is, but it doesn't compare at all to what you guys have here.
No. Yeah, and hopefully Elon has commented publicly, hopefully the end of the month we'll get this. But yeah, just keep going. There's no stop signs. But yeah, that's the thing, is that it will be a game changer. I'm used to driving FSD all the time, and having to drive it. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing to drive the truck, but it is an adjustment when you are used to the FSD life. But yeah, it's crazy to be having that. But what is your thoughts on? You know, I think you made the comment to me personally where you were like, people in Germany have or even Europe really have no idea.
They don't know.
So like, what makes it so special? Like, why do you think people in Europe, have no idea?
Well, in Germany or in Europe in general, we are not allowed to use FSD. So all we have is autopilot, which is already I mean, I've been driving Tesla for 8 years. Back in the day, people were really impressed that the car could drive alone on the Autobahn. Even now, it's still special for some people, especially older generations. But FSD is such a game changer because eventually it just means that you don't have to drive. You can be drunk or sick or sleeping, or the car just parks itself, or people that have disabilities can drive and move around more freely, and mobility becomes cheaper. It's such a big game changer, and only you here in the US have the privilege to experience the future now even. And when you don't follow channels like yours, like tech-specific channels in English, that can be a hurdle for some people in Germany or in Europe, then you just don't know.
Yeah.
And also it develops so fast. I mean, it hasn't been like this forever. Like 2 years ago, FSD was kind of shaky and scary.
Yeah. Well, we were, myself and a guy named Raj, we were the first public beta testers ever. Actually, and you've been driving around the Model X. That was the first car that was public with FSD. Yeah. And it's been around 3.5 years, but what it's doing today is unlike anything. So, it really is going to change the game. I want Europeans to see this more, and I hope that they can become more aware of it. And that's kind of, I told you when you first got here, that is what, it's Amazon to the bookstore, right? It looks like it's a car company. But really, when you drive FSD, that's really what it is, right? Now you see Amazon, they ship everything. They even make their own goods now. They own a huge supply chain. I mean, they own 20% of Rivian. I mean, so that again is like, Tesla started as a car company, right? But it's so much more than that now. Give us your final thoughts on driving the Cybertruck. What are your, you had some experience. You're going to get more time with it. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on the truck?
Yeah, thank you for having me here and letting me check out the car, and even more in the future. For me, a car is not just something you go from A to B with. It's an emotional thing. It's a lifestyle thing. It's something that gives me pleasure. And this thing checks all these boxes. You just enter this car. You just walk up to the car and intuitively you understand that this is something special, and for me it's very positive because I really like the design. I love the power of the car. I like how it turns. I love that you have so much space. So for me, this is very special, and I hope that I get more experiences with this car in the future, and I'm very happy for you that you get to drive this every day.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon with FSD.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, thank you, Alex, for all that you're doing, you know, from a European perspective, just giving people in Germany, you know, what it's like to drive EVs and testing them out. And I mean, it's going to take a village to make this transition happen. So I'm going to post a link in the channel for Electrified if you want to check out all the amazing work that Alex is doing, even with CarbonFi. So, and you know, thank you again for your time and for coming all the way out to the US.
Hey, thank you, John. And really, I love the vibe here in the US. We met 2 or 3 weeks ago, got along great, had a beer in Austria, and you've been very inviting, helpful, friendly, connecting me with other interesting people.
Yeah.
So I love when, you know, life is fast and positive, and
Yep.
you just do things and grow together and do these amazing things.
Cool. Thank
Thanks,
you.
man.